You're listening to the Multifamily Marketwatch for Washington State. Apartment owners who need to know, trust HFO. The leading source for multifamily industry news around the state, from Puget Sound to the Tri-Cities.
Welcome back to HFO's Multifamily Marketwatch update for Washington State. I'm your host, HFO broker Aaron Kirk Douglas. Here's some recent news you may have missed since our last update. U.S. apartment rents fell for a second straight month. Seattle voters tell pollsters they want more housing. And reporters are questioning Seattle utility district's charging of capital improvement fees. All this and more in just a moment. HFO's podcast co-sponsors include Butler Exchange Group, specialists handling 1031 tax-free exchanges for multifamily properties. RealPage Analytics rental housing economist Jay Parsons reports that U.S. apartment rents fell for a second straight month, decreasing 0.56% month over month in October, the third deepest monthly rent cut in more than 12 years. Parsons says rents are declining due to weak demand. As a result, he forecasts that net apartment absorption in the calendar year 22 will fall into negative territory. Closer to home, Rent.com reports rents in Tacoma were down or stabilizing, dropping 1.7% month over month, and Seattle rents were down a reported 2.6%, with a year-to-date increase overall of just 0.7%. The Urbanist is out with new reporting on the Seattle region's extensive blanket of exclusionary zoning. Its report is based on maps from the Urban Land Institute that show the scale of allowed new housing construction within a half mile of transit corridors. Cities including Lake Forest Park, Newcastle, Normandy Park, and Mercer Island dedicate more than 95% of their residential land overall exclusively to single-family homes. Seattle and Bellevue reserve more than 70% of residential land for single-family homes, and the complete ULI report is slated for release in January. One advance excerpt from that report states that if the single-family zones allowed multifamily housing, the region could add up to 120,000 more units. The Seattle Metro Chamber of Commerce released its twice-annual index poll of Seattle voters. It found that 65% of voters supported new housing, even if it meant replacing single-family homes in their own neighborhoods. The support was an increase of 4 points from 6 months earlier. The poll was conducted by EMC Research. EMC said the results were unusual compared to most cities in that it supported more housing even when the question asked about adding housing in the respondent's neighborhood. The Urbanist published a report by a professional engineer alleging that Seattle Public Utilities is overcharging developers for capital improvement fees. The report states that the burdens on new housing are costly and unsubstantiated. This report cites a 160-unit mixed-use affordable housing project that was nearly derailed by an SPU mandate to pay $1 million to install a water main. After being contacted for comment by the article's author, the utility removed its requirement to install that water main upgrade. The entire story can be found on theurbanist.org. Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell ended the city's COVID emergency proclamation as of October 31st. As a result of that change, rent installment plan requirements will end next May 1st, along with the window for eviction history that is not allowed to be considered by a landlord. Landlords will also be allowed to charge late fees, interest, and other charges due to late payment of rent starting next October 31st. New tenant protections were adopted recently in Port Townsend and the city of Burien. Those cities now require 120 days written notice for rent increases of more than 3% and 180 days written notice for increases of more than 10%. In addition, Burien added a couple of additional requirements to its ordinance. It allows for tenants to terminate the tenancy immediately upon surrendering the unit before the increase takes effect. All move-in fees and security deposits cannot exceed 1 month's rent. Inflation is hitting the pocketbooks of young Americans, and a recent survey of 1,000 renters between the ages of 22 and 35 found that 54% are cutting back on expenses. Nearly 49% are looking for a new job or additional work, 34% are looking for a new place to rent or live, 30% are cutting back on travel or taking money out of savings, 22% are cutting back on groceries, 17% are using credit cards to pay rent, 13% are relying on friends or family for help, and 12% are getting or adding a roommate. Thanks for listening. Join me next week for my interview with Carl Whitaker, Director of Research and Analysis for RealPage Inc., and I'll also have a lending update from Blake Herring of Gantry Inc. Don't forget, you can stay up to date on multifamily news throughout the week by visiting or subscribing to the Northwest Apartment Investor blog on our website.
Our entire office specializes in multifamily real estate, making HFO the largest multifamily brokerage in the Pacific Northwest. Your success is our passion. Build your legacy with HFO. Call 206-705-5115 or visit our website at hfore.com for more information. HFO is an affiliate of the Global Real Estate Advisor Network.